differences, and so on. I've mentioned all of that is there in some detail. Okay, a few pointers I want to quickly share with you. So modern day arrangements. So we know the procedure of Islamic nikah. I've talked to you about ijab and qabul, the proposal and acceptance. So let me quickly ask. I've got 10 minutes left. Let me quickly ask. So in an Islamic marriage, a man is allowed to marry a Hindu woman. True or false? A man is allowed to marry a Hindu woman. True or false? False? Yes, because she's not of the same faith, or she's not of the Ahlul Kitab. A woman is allowed to marry two men. True or false? False. A man is allowed to marry two sisters at the same time. False. A man cannot marry his cousin's sisters. Is that true or false? A man is not allowed to marry his cousin's sisters. Do you have a difference of opinion here? True or false? False. So it's false. So he is allowed to marry them. Okay. In a nikah, as long as there's been a proposal and an acceptance hidden away in the back of a car, that's good enough. True or false? False. It needs to be with in front of witnesses. Okay? There's a couple who are in a relationship and they are at risk of committing zina. And now they can't marry because they don't have a guardian. The girl doesn't have a guardian. In that situation, they can never marry. True or false? False. They can marry, according to all the ulama I've mentioned. Okay, let's move on swiftly. So modern day arrangements. So I've talked to you about the virtues, the benefits. I've talked to you about the religious aspects of how marriage is done. Let's talk about some of the common aspects. Number one, arranged marriage. Majority of the people know what arranged marriage is. I sit in an office with many professional people and I give them a long talk around the difference between an arranged marriage and a forced marriage. A lot of people here living in the UK and in a lot of Western countries think an arranged marriage is a forced marriage. It's not. An arranged marriage is not a forced. They are two completely separate things. So arranged marriage is as follows. I'll make it very quick. Is as follows. The parents, so let's say, I'll use the example of a man. So the man's parents, they say to him, okay, we're going to get you married. Are you happy for us to look for you? Yes, mom, dad, you guys look into, or whoever, look into it. So then they'll go around and they'll start looking, they'll start to ask people, they'll ask people questions, they'll do some homework. And they'll find an appropriate person, and then they'll say to the son, well, we found someone for you, would you consider it? Yes, I'll consider it. They might show them pictures, they might show them, I don't know, an Instagram picture, or something along those lines, whatever it is that they've got hold of. Then the son will say, okay, I will consider it, I'll have a look, I'll think about it, and he'll come back and say, yes, mom, dad, go ahead. And then the families get involved, they have conversations, the girl and the boy, they meet one another, they have, they see one another, they have discussions, and then it goes down to the route, yes, we accept, we will marry, and it all goes according to the plan. All happily ever after. Well, majority of the times. So that's what happens, that's a normal process. Families are involved, and everything happens, and all parents, family, everybody's a part of this, an arranged marriage too. A forced marriage, on the other hand, is the man says, I don't want to marry, the girl says, I don't want to marry, parents say, tough, if you're my son, if you're my daughter, you're going to marry. If you don't like it, I'm chucking you out. Emotional force, sometimes physical force, that is what you call a forced marriage. It's not permissible. We find love marriages, which is two people, they got into a relationship, they fell for one another, and I would say there's no harm in that, as long as they deal with it in a religious fashion, which is that if you want to be together, then you be together in wedlock. Until that point, there's no contact. There is, many, and when I say no contact, no physical contact is out of the question. Physical contact is out of the question. And I know in some cultures it is norm. that you get to know one another, you speak to one another, you communicate, and within a certain hudud, or within a certain limit, it is acceptable. But even that, you have to be very, very careful. It has to be managed. It has to be transparent. It has to be managed. It shouldn't be that you're on the phone, with unlimited, now you get unlimited data, isn't it? Unlimited data, unlimited calls. So you're on the phone, so as soon as everybody goes to bed, you connect the mobile phone to your ear and you hear each other snoring. There's no good to that. So, sometimes you spend hours, especially if you're at university, you spend the entire night on the mobile phone. You can't even get up in the morning and get to class. Your mind is clouded. Your faculties of learning is clouded, and that is not productive. That is not productive. So you need to manage the situation. I'm not going to say to you that, I'm going to say to you, try to avoid it as much as possible. But if it happens, manage it. If it happens, manage it and try to bring everything within the Islamic framework. Then I have what I call the famous 999 marriage. Phone rings, Sheikh, are you sleeping? Yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Sheikh, please, can you please come down? We need an emergency marriage. What do you mean emergency marriage? Well, Sheikh, just don't ask too many questions. Can you please sort it out? Well, I need to know some more information. And sometimes, it's quite sad. Sometimes, maybe she's fallen pregnant. A number of different things happen, serious things happen, and an emergency nikah needs to take place to make things a bit more easier. So nevertheless, these are some things that happen, realistically speaking. What I would advise brothers and sisters is try to keep it as safe as possible. Marriage is not only about 2 people, it's about 2 families. That's the truth. It's about 2 families, and you need to go into a journey together. So try to make it safe as possible, manageable as possible. Also, customs and traditions. There are loads of traditions that we have in our communities, and sometimes unbearable traditions. I'm not going to say everything's haram, because that's not what I'm going to say. Just manage it. There's no, if a father cannot afford a £50,000 marriage, and he can only afford a £2,000 marriage, then so be it. The Prophet ﷺ said, the best of marriages are those which have had the less expenditure. The best of marriages are those with the less expenditure. What I would say was more practical, if somebody's going to spend 50 grand on a nikah, give that money to the couple and say to them, here's 40,000 pounds, 50,000 pounds, and buy yourselves a house with this. Buy something that they can use it for. But if you're going to go into a massive loan and a debit, a credit, it's not practical. But some traditions, and some traditions might not be religious, but you just manage that and you take that on as it comes along. Okay, I'm going to inshallah finish it here just with the final point, and then inshallah next week I will go into more details about this. Last point I want to share with you today, and I'll allow you a few minutes for questions. The last point I want to tell you about today is istikhara and mashwara or shura. There are 2 completely different things. Do you see a magical dream after you've done istikhara? What do you see and how do you make it reality? First question. When do you act upon a dream or istikhara, whatever you've seen? And when do you not act upon it? All of these, inshallah, I'll leave you in suspense. I will address next week, inshallah. All of these I will explain, inshallah, next week. I will discuss in some detail. What I want to do now, inshallah, the last few moments is questions. So today we've talked about the virtues, the importance. We've talked about the society that we live in. We've talked about choosing an ideal partner. We've talked about some of the qualities in the ideal partner. We've talked about how a nikah takes place. So now to yourselves, really, for the next 5-10 minutes. Is there any questions? And I'm assuming there'll be no questions. Yes, there's a question at the back.
Right, so it's regarding forced marriages. So when, obviously the guy doesn't accept, the girl doesn't accept, but it kind of still gets forced into it. How would you go about it?
Okay, so if somebody is forced into marriage, and it's a very, very difficult situation to be in, I would say, if it's not manageable through the family, then seek help from outside of the family. If somebody is forced into it and nothing is working, but I'll be honest and I'll say, get professional help. Get professional help. But I'm hopeful, inshallah, you won't need professional help. If you be open about it, tell people, make your emotions heard, tell people about it, tell your immediate family, tell the people around you, then inshallah, you should be able to deal with the situation. But and there are situations that, the whole issue around honor killings and all of that comes from these forced marriages. And alhamdulillah, it's been addressed, but it's not addressed completely. So what I would say is try to speak to your family first. If that doesn't work, speak to the family, friends, family relations. If nothing works, seek professional help. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's put that. Adam, is this going to work?
Should do, yeah.
Okay, so you can go on to this. If you don't want to ask the question verbally, now and inshallah, I'll pick those questions up for next week as well. And next week I'll start off with the questions. So take this down. Will that work?
Should do, but I'll create another one, remember?
Okay, but if they put questions on here, can we pick it up next week as well? Okay,
yeah.
so if you have questions now, you can do it now. Or you can post questions on here, and I'll pick them up next week as well, inshallah. So let me log online. Everybody got a... Yeah?
I have a question.
You have a question? Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Question?